Hello, I'm Gwenydd Jones of the Translators Studio. We specialise in teaching the art of translation and in preparing translators for professional translation exams like the Diptrans. In this video, I interview Greg Ahlswede, a working ATA certified translator, elite athlete, and ex-student from our advanced translation course. This interview is packed with nuggets of wisdom for anyone wondering about working as a translator and about ATA Translator Certification. Greg shares his early experience of working as an in-house translator in Madrid and how he transitioned to freelancing. He talks about developing his translation skills and gives details of the ATA Translator Certification exam. He also shares his thoughts on machine translation and talks about diversifying into machine translation post-editing. As an athlete, Greg's a member of the US orienteering team. This means he has to train from 8 to 25 hours a week. He explains how working as a freelance translator enables him to fit both work and training into his lifestyle. This really is a must-see interview for anyone thinking of working in the world of translation. Translators, I give you Greg Ahlswede. Tell us the story of how you became a professional translator.
Okay, so I majored in Spanish in college in the US. And after college, I moved to Madrid, worked as a language assistant for 3 years. But in college, I had already been considering like what my career opportunities were going to be. And education is exciting. You get to see people develop, but there were a lot about it that I didn't really feel like it fit for me. And I had read about translation and the process of translation, I took a few courses on it in college, and the process of translation always seemed really intriguing to me. And then in large part, actually, the lifestyle of translation always appealed to me quite a bit. Remote work, I always thought is like, that's where I want to be. That's the lifestyle that I want. So once I finished my 3 years of being a language assistant in Madrid, I actually started working at an office, translation office in-house at an engineering company in downtown Madrid. And that was an experience. I can't say.
So was that a translation agency or a company?
It was an engineering company that, because of the financial crisis, seemed to be having some problems with their engineering branch, and they started leaning quite heavily on the translation branch of their company. So I mean, it was a bit strange how it worked, because they started really building the translation teams, because that was the only thing really bringing in money at that point in time. This was 2015 to 2016. And I was there for a year. That was about as much as I could handle of that office environment. I'm not saying all offices are bad, but certainly that one, and they knew that. They knew that they hired fresh young people without experience, give them an opportunity, work them to death, and then after a year, most of them will be on their way. So after that year, I said, you know what? I'm going to try this freelance translation. This is what I wanted to do. I have a gestor, I have an accountant that can handle all of the stuff that makes me nervous about running a business. And I took it from there. And the thing was also, because I had this experience at this company, and this company knew me really well, they actually started giving me many, many projects that just from that company. So that was really easy to make the jump, because I already had a client who I was working with, and I was actually making more.
Okay, like they paid their freelancers more than they paid the in-house team. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. When I go back and I do the calculations about how much I was making when I was in the office, it's quite depressing to think about. That's what I mean, is that was their whole strategy. It was to bring people in without experience, give them the hope of getting their foot in the door, which is exactly what they did. I look back at it as like, man, they really took advantage of us. But then, I also got a lot of experience in the world of translation. I got my foot in the door. I have a lot of contacts now, lots and lots of
Right.
contacts.
Because that's what I'm thinking. Because a lot of people who are thinking of becoming freelance translators, they think they need a translation degree or an MA in translation studies or something to even be able to start to get work. But from what you're saying, you actually, obviously you had you have a language degree, but you didn't actually have any translation qualifications when they gave you that job.
I had a certificate from my university, which was a new certificate that my university had created. It wasn't much. I mean, it had given me just summary knowledge of translation and really basic stuff. So I learned most of what I've, just that job got me into most of it. And as an aside, kind of the interesting thing, if people are worried about, if they need an MA or if they need things like that, we hired, because there was quite a bit of turnover on the English team while I was there. We hired a lot of people with very different backgrounds, people without any language degrees, people who just had a standard business degree, or people with language degrees. In fact, there was one guy who I think he had the most impressive qualifications on paper of any translator I've seen. But when it came to the practical side of translation, we had to let him go because he couldn't make the cut. So I mean, what I'm trying to get at with that is that education is important. It's very helpful, but it's not everything, and it's not necessary.
I'm also wondering about client feedback, because then if they're hiring people who aren't trained, I should think that the overall quality would have been quite low of the output.
Yeah, no, the quality of that office was about what you would expect with a whole bunch of fresh translators coming in, but it was trial by fire. I mean, if you did it well, you could stay around there, and the clients were happy, and you kept making it work. And we did let people go when their quality wasn't good enough. But what we saw with that was, for the most part, it seemed like those were the people who just didn't take it seriously enough. I mean, if you just check the details again and again, if you're confident in your language skills, you can make it work pretty well in an office like that. For higher levels of translation, if what clients want, maybe not. But in an environment like that, if you're confident in your language and you take your job seriously, you can get pretty far.
Because I'm kind of comparing it in my head to, say, somebody who might be thinking of doing an internship where they might be going to get more training, but they're hardly going to make any money. In the end, it was not a great experience, but it's a year of professional experience that then gave you the confidence and the material for your CV to then go out as a freelancer and start looking for clients.
They called that a job, and it was officially a job, but for all practical purposes, it was an internship that we did. And I mean, it was just new people without any experience, not getting paid all that well, but getting paid decently, and just learning.
So then, I know, moving forward, I know that you then have continued to develop your career. You came to train with us, and so I got to know your work very well. And I also know that you went on to sit and pass the ATA, the American Translators Association Translator Certification exam. Can you tell us a bit about that experience, sitting the exam?
Well, so I think the ATA exam, I had to refresh myself on the details because I took it back in September and it's February now, so it's been it was gone from my head. But quite simply, the ATA exam has 3 passages. You have to translate 2 of them. The passages are about 225 to 275, 275 words each, and they're usually in different specializations. And it can be a bit random, but you have to translate 2 of those, and it's 3 hours long. And the surprising part, which I appreciated about the exam, is that it's open book. So you can have access to the internet. You can bring reference materials.
Okay. Do they watch your? Can you access anything you want on the internet, or is it certain sites that you can access?
There are there are certain sites, automatic translator, machine translators like Google Translate, that's off limits naturally. But extremely helpful references like Word reference are, there's a list of other sites that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's on the ATA website, so you can check that out.
Yeah, I'll put a link below the video.
Sure. Where were we?
Well, what about preparation? What did you do to prepare for the exam?
Well, so the preparation actually was pretty simple. I mean, I took your advanced Spanish to English translation course, and then I just applied what you taught me in the course to pretty much every project I had. And so every little project I had with the client, with the clients that I have been working with, I took as, okay, let's go through these steps. Let's take it, take it seriously and make a proper translation. And doing that again and again and again for several months, especially because originally I was going to sit the exam at the start of the pandemic, and then that went out the window. So I was able to have a year and a half of practice of preparing for this, basically just taking it seriously, taking each job that I had seriously, which is a good practice anyway.
Definitely, yes.
But when it came to the exam, what that meant for me is I just took those texts as just another text for a client. So all the nerves and all that stuff that was gone. It was just like, okay, just go through and do what you always do.
That's brilliant.
So I kept it pretty. I mean, I made sure to know. I made sure to know what was on the exam. I made sure to know what was allowed, what wasn't allowed, etc. But other than that, I mean, just your course and then just applying it.
And this was an online exam, right? You did it online. Correct. And not in person, yeah. And what have you got out of this ATA qualification?
Well, so I actually have been meaning to use it for marketing myself more. I haven't been able to because I've been too busy with work, actually, which I think is kind of a good sign. It's why aren't you looking for more work? Well, I have too much work to look for more work. So I'm okay with that scenario. But the good part also is that the ATA does have a directory of certified translators, ATA certified translators, and I've had clients reaching out to me through there.
Okay.
And only like 2 or 3 so far seem to be evolving into long-term collaborations. But just the fact that I haven't had to do anything yet. I nothing. I mean, it's just I put the seal as a signature in my email, and that's about it. And another part, apart from that, like I said, I'm just on the ATA directory. So like I said, I mean, I feel terrible. I feel like I should be using it for marketing myself, saying, yes, I am an ATA certified translator, but I just haven't had time for it. A big part for me, like what have I got out of it, apart from, trying to show clients that I'm actually a certified translator, is really getting the confirmation that I am actually capable as a translator. Because after working in that office, I mean, I knew what the quality of the translations coming out of that office were. I knew where it was. And I didn't feel very confident in my abilities. I thought, okay, you survived in this office with clients who weren't expecting very much. But once you get to a higher level, that's not going to be the same thing. But that was a really nice boost to my confidence as a translator, to have an external person say, no, this is a certified translation. This is good. And that started actually with your course. I mean, where I had somebody else sitting down, looking at it and saying, no, this is good. I mean, you can work on this, obviously, but this is good. I hadn't had that before, but in the office, it was just, send the translations to the client. If they complain, we'll fix it. There wasn't a really clear feedback process. So that was the confidence coming from that is a huge thing also.
That's great. Yeah, to get rid of imposter syndrome, just to be able to say, yes, what do you do? I'm a professional translator, and really believe that about yourself. And I'm sure it makes a big difference when you're selling your services to clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greg, Two of the main concerns among upcoming translators is either not being able to get enough work, and also they're worried about the long-term threat of machine translation. What would you say to that?
Yeah, they're good. I mean, they're valid concerns. They were things that concerned me certainly when I was getting into it. I think anytime I tell someone I'm a translator, they say, your job's going to be gone in a few years because of machine translation, right? And I'm like, oh, that's nice. I just met you, but
thanks for telling me that. What do you do? Let's see what AI is going to do to your job.
Exactly. But I mean, to answer to that, I think my experience is that if you take your work seriously, I mean, like handing your work in on time, making sure the translation is acceptable, being really detailed about it, actively responding to clients when they email you. If you take all of that stuff seriously, I don't think there's any shortage of work once you have a few clients, there are slow periods, but those are offset by the periods of work, and very offset by the periods of work. I mean, yes. It's, when you have to start saying no to projects, that's when like, yeah, this is, there's not really much of a shortage. And in terms of machine translation, I think it's just going to be another tool at the disposal of translators. It's only a threat if you refuse to learn it or learn about it or use it. If you say no, I mean, you just shut yourself off. Yeah, I mean, it's a growing field. It's a growing part of translation, because what I've seen with companies is that the proper process of translation is far too slow for them, far too slow in the modern world of business. They want stuff always, as they say, they want it for yesterday, right? And there certainly are companies that are understanding of what a proper translation entails, the time that it needs, but those are the minority. Most people they want it now. And many of them are willing to work with a different, I don't want to say it's a significantly worse quality machine translation, but it's a different output. It's a different product that they're getting from a standard human translation when you have machine translation and post editing. And many of them are willing to value speed over just completely proper human translation. So, like I said, I think it's just actually going to help translation grow, because there are going to be more clients interested in getting these services if they can get it faster, and they want to get it cheaper because of machine translation. That's debatable, how much cheaper it really should be, but it's a debate for another day. But yeah, so in my view, I have taken on quite a few post-editing jobs of post-editing machine translation. I haven't done the exact calculations. I would say it represents 10-15% of my income right now, which is nothing to sneeze at. That's pretty good. And I think it's going to grow. And
do you charge that work per hour, or do you charge per word with
currently per word, because the client has requested that. I think per hour would make much more sense in certain circumstances. But with these, when it comes to these things, when you're negotiating rates, and this is just something you have to do with all translations, I make sure that if a client is telling me that they want me to accept a certain low rate or something, because this client has asked me to lower my rates for post-editing, I let them know, okay, I can accept that rate as long as you understand the quality that is going to come from it.
Right. Yeah. It's like you're buying this much of my time, and so I'm going to do this project in this time, and you'll get the quality that I can produce in that time. Yeah, I think that's the right attitude.
Yeah. It's just being upfront about it, right?
Yeah. And maybe that's what they're looking for. If it's really high volume, say they're trying to translate the client wants to translate 2 million, 3 million words, and they just want to get it readable.
Yeah.
And so then it can be lucrative for the translator.
Well, I mean, it is lucrative. When I look at my hourly rate, when it comes out to what it comes out to, it's around like 50 euros an hour sometimes when I'm going through, which is, I'm quite happy with.
Yeah, that's great.
But like I said, as long as I'm upfront with the client and say, okay, these are my earning targets. This is what I need to do. And if you want to pay me that much, that's fine. We can work on this, just to understand what's going to be coming from it, you know? And so far they seem happy with it.
Yeah, I think it's the attitude of being upfront, communicating well with them. It's so important. You're certainly getting that right. And that's perhaps why you've got so many clients wanting to work with you.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean is if you're good about being accountable, handing in on time, being detailed translator and responding and being upfront with clients, then it's just, I mean, the clients start appearing. And then, you know, project managers who worked at one place to move to another, and they'll contact you from that other saying, hey, I know we signed these stuff, but is there any way that you could check out this translation, stuff like that. Once you get your foot in the door, once you get a few clients, it explodes, and you have to start saying no to quite a bit of stuff, you know?
And that's good. You can expand your portfolio. You can maybe lose some of the lower paying clients and start quoting higher for the new ones. Sure.
Yeah.
And just to close the interview, what would be your message to upcoming translators?
Yeah, this is a really good question, because I keep thinking about what I would tell myself a few years ago, because there have been several times where I've considered, is this something I really do want to continue in? And I'd say just don't give up hope, because you will have a few dry months here and there. That will happen. It's a completely normal part of running any business. It's just that most of us are used to seeing it from the employee side, where we're expecting there's going to be a steady income, right? But it's completely normal. And just because that happens to you doesn't necessarily reflect on your quality as a translator. It might actually be nice to take a break from these, you actually start valuing those dry periods where you say, okay, I can breathe a bit, oh, I don't have any work, maybe I'll go and do this. And there's lots of other options. I don't know if I told you, Gwenydd, but I started working actually part-time at a running shoe store in the city I'm living in.
Okay.
And I'm quite a big runner. I'm very into all that stuff. We didn't really touch on that, but I'm an elite athlete. It's something I'm passionate about. And the nice thing about that is, so because I can set my hours in translation, I'm my own boss in that way. I can make time for this other thing, working at the store. And that really just, if I have a dry month and it looks really bad, I take on more hours at the store. There's lots of options for that. And I wouldn't say, if you have dry periods, that's a reason for you to stop.
Yeah. I think we should, I think this is, so in a way, is this a passion project for you? Because as you said, you're an elite athlete. You're not taking a job at Eddie's shoe store. I should think that you'd be your dream shoe advisor.
Well, most people are, maybe they're not, most of our clients are not people who are really, really big into running. They just want to get out and run a few times a week, which is perfectly fine. I love that. But yeah, it's absolutely a passion project. And, also to offset a bit of the tough part of remote work is getting to interact with people. During the pandemic, I realized that was a tough part of translation, working at home by myself every day. That was tough. So in this way, I get to meet people in my community. I get to talk, talk with new people every day, share a lot of my knowledge, my passion and stuff. So it's a passion project. I don't get paid a ton for it, but it's enough to, like I said, to make things a bit more stable. So,
and I guess it's also, with the freelancing, you're able to control your training hours, which you wouldn't be able to if you were in full-time employment.
No, especially if I had to commute. If I had to commute to an office or anything, when I did it, I made it work when I was working at the office in Madrid, but that wasn't sustainable the way it was going. I wasn't, because something has to go somewhere. It's, you either don't train, you either don't sleep, you don't work. So that all of that stuff, all of the remote work lifestyle, getting to work with languages if it's something you're passionate about, that promise is great. It's stuff that I get to live every day. I live in a cheaper city, more close out in the mountains rather than a big city, because that's what I feel passionate about, and I get to spend less money. All of this stuff is enabled by translation,
Yeah.
So, like I said, don't give up hope. Just, look at what you can do. If you can pick up a part-time job at another store while while your business is still getting afloat, that's fine, and good and healthy in some ways. So yeah, that's my message.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. It's been a pleasure to speaking to you, and you've shared lots of information that I know is going to be really helpful for people who are thinking of becoming a translator or just starting out.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for doing it, Gwenydd.
I hope you enjoyed this interview from the Translators Studio. We specialise in teaching the art of translation and in preparing translators for certification through the Diptrans exam. If you like our content, please let us know by clicking on the subscribe button. See you in the next video.